Very good morning and welcome. It's fantastic to see you all, and thank you all so much for coming. It's a full house. That's great. You know, for us, it's always exciting to see such a good turnout. I won't do a large introduction, but I think you all know we are going to be talking about FDI, and FDI has been in the market for a while. I have an amazing panelist here. A couple of our clients, both from different industries, both of them in different part of the journey. So they're going to be telling us different stories that you would definitely enjoy. And then I have my friend and a colleague who's been an expert in this space and has been implementing this from the time FAW was released. So thank you all for coming, and we'll get started in a minute. So, Ducky, do you want to introduce yourself, tell a little bit about your firm, and then about yourself, please?
Hi. Oh, this is crowded room here. Ducky Min. I head up finance operations at a small but mighty company called Circle. So Circle, for most of you guys, I think maybe half of you might know that or not, but a little bit of an intro is it's a fintech company that focuses on enabling stablecoin and the infrastructure around it. So you may have heard token names like USDC, URC. Those are tokens that we create and we manage. So even in the fintech space, we consider ourselves disruptors of the space. And as a result, we don't really have that many things that fit sort of our business requirements a lot. So it's been a very interesting journey with PwC and Oracle to sort of upgrade our finance processes and systems. And a bit about me, I guess, more. My background is, I was, prior to joining Circle about almost 2 years ago, I was at a NFT company called OpenSea. And prior to that, I was at Deloitte for about 18 years doing accounting advisory, M&A integration and separation work. So not a PwC alum, but like working with PwC a lot.
Thanks, Ducky. Corinne?
Hi, Corinne Walkus. I'm a finance director and Oracle product manager at Markel Group, specifically within our insurance operations. Markel is a specialty insurer. We're headquartered in Richmond, Virginia, but we do have offices and operations all throughout the globe, specifically in Europe and Asia. So because we're an insurance company, we're subject to a lot of regulatory reporting requirements and then local reporting requirements in the various countries and jurisdictions. Currency also plays a big factor for us, so I'd say we have a pretty complex reporting landscape. I've been with Markel for just over 13 years, where I actually started as a staff accountant and then worked my way up to overseeing our quarterly close process and then moved into a role that was really focused on projects. In the last couple years, I've been implementing our various Oracle applications, which is really what landed me in my current role and why I'm here today, actually. So, thank you.
Thank you, Corinne. Brad?
Yeah, I'll keep it quick. Brad House, our partner with PwC, primarily focused on our Oracle data and analytics space. So work closely with our teams to deliver the platform across sectors, ensuring obviously all angles of the platform are being leveraged to drive that value. So glad to be here.
Thanks. Thank you all. Finally, I should introduce myself too. So Tojo Johnson from PwC. I'm in the Oracle data and analytics practice. We serve the clients, especially implementing all the products related to data and analytics, which is spread across Oracle in different parts of the organization. So once again, thank you all for coming. So Corinne, we'll start with you. I think you mentioned, you've started or you're in a finance transformation journey, and usually such a big transformation starts off with certain business case and certain objectives, or sometimes, hey, here are the shortcomings we have currently. Could you give us a bit of background on how this journey started?
Yeah, absolutely. So our journey started back in 2022, and I would say we were facing some pretty serious performance issues within our ERP that we were trying to solve for. We had implemented Oracle back in 2018, and because of our ledger design and those complex reporting requirements and currency considerations, we were just, trying to run reports and transaction within ERP was problematic. But we took the opportunity to not just solve that one problem. We actually underwent a almost 4-month assessment where we conducted interviews across all of finance to understand what were our pain points across all of our various teams, whether it be tax, accounting, FP&A, SEC reporting. So coming out of that, we had a multi-year, multi-phased roadmap approach of how we would approach our transformation journey. So we actually ended up re-implementing ERP, adding the procurement module, and then implementing various EPM applications within the first year. Subsequent to that is when we implemented FDI, so that was last year. That was really to help us solve some of our reporting issues, is what I would say. We, as a finance organization, we want to be seen as trusted advisors to the business. And we definitely struggle with that for a few reasons, because one, our data is really fragmented. It's across our various source systems, it's within our operational data warehouse, and then within Oracle. And at the end of the day, it's the financials that people need to report off of, but trying to cobble all of that together was not easy to do. So we weren't able to provide the value that we needed to from a management and operational reporting perspective. We also weren't very timely because of that either. So that was definitely big on our roadmap in order for us to solve for.
Corinne, I think you have finished one part of the implementation and you're live on FDI, right?
Yes, that's right.
That's great. And I think some of the challenges or the objectives that you mentioned is pretty common. Brad, I'm assuming you would agree, when you are looking at different clients, similar problems. Hey, the data is fragmented. The business users are spending more time acquiring the data than analyzing the data and creating insights out. And I don't know, Brad. If
Yeah, I think that's pretty common. I think with Markel, it was a little bit more of a unique scenario, just given the multi-lines of business, the complexity in some of their data, and the multi-hierarchies that we were trying to support within the application. But working closely, we're able to kind of get that pulled together to a level that would perform. But I think the biggest piece is it's not uncommon, right? So as we think about multi-source, multi-applications, a lot of organizations are struggling with that information. And so we're seeing, obviously where FDI plays in that space very well, as why all of you are here from an ERP perspective, but enabling that business to get value quickly, moving away from the spreadsheets and being able to get access to that information relatively fast.
Ducky, I know you're in a different part of the journey, but if you could tell us the start of the journey, what drove you to take this transformation and particularly engage with FDI?
So we started our Oracle implementation journey August or September of last year. And we are doing a phased approach of implementation, and we are actually changing about 80 to 90% of our tooling. We are at a very different maturity. We are maturing right now, so our legacy ERP was very one-dimensional, very limited in the amount of data it was collecting also, hence resulting in that data being captured outside in the business, right? So with Oracle, as we are doing these phased implementation, this month being our last implementation, we are now seeing that we wanted to reap the benefits of all the granular data that we're getting into our ERP. So it was a natural choice to enable FDI. Now, for us, it's a little bit of an interesting case. So one area of our business, our stablecoin business, for those of you who are not familiar, we do a monthly attestation of our stablecoin, how much stablecoin was issued, and how much of that supported. So that data comes from traditional banking data, our internal system data, blockchain data. And all of that we need to basically bring in and do a reconciliation, which we use Accounting Hub and ARCs for, but we also do a report out. And it looks nice and simple and pretty, but it's actually a lot of different sources to create. And for us, FDI was the end of that solve, meaning data comes in, Accounting Hub, ARCs, and then we go with a one-click button all the way to FDI. And it's a required reporting that we do once a month right now, but historically, when we did it manually, it will take almost a month to do that reporting, just the sheer amount of data we have. But we know that the regulatory environment for us is that in certain regions that will become weekly or daily requirement, which is something without Oracle and FDI especially we wouldn't be able to do at that scale.
So, Ducky, if I were to summarize, it sounds similar kind of situation with Markel, but very different industry, dealing with very different kinds of data sources and data sets. But generally speaking, it's something that was super manual and very difficult, time-consuming to put this together. And having a platform like FDI, which has the ability to bring in data set from, that's kind of how it evolved.
Yeah, and I think for us, what really helped when we were evaluating FDI was a lot of the times when you look at tooling that offers different reporting, sometimes it's hard to when you have a visual output of what your report needs to look at to get it to that point. But I think FDI really was, that link was pretty smooth for us. And when we first came out with the design, because we have an existing manual process, it was more like, okay, how do we technically configure it to that way? But it wasn't, no, we can't do that. We can get you the data, but then you have to manually get to the end. I think that was sort of a big selling point for our accounting stakeholders. Yeah.
Right. So you had an objective, certain problems to solve. FDI seemed like a good fit.
Yeah.
And then the next sort of thoughts we'd like to hear, and Brad, please, share your thoughts as well. No company is without additional technologies with respect to reporting and so forth. Everybody's engaged in a repository build, an enterprise reporting strategy. So there's a lot of other technologies available within the firm itself. And on top of it, Oracle has their own out-of-the-box reporting attached to each of the modules. So how did he balance the equation hey, FDI can still complement your existing architecture?
So for us, how should I answer this? It's a little, maybe I'll share how we're utilizing not just the example I shared, which was a very specific reason why even we went to Oracle. We also use it for, we went public this year, so we have public company reporting requirements. So Workiva, we actually create our reports to feed Workiva directly in FDI, and then we connect it to Workiva. So that is also a streamlined reporting process we enabled. And as we're going live with all of our subledgers in August, we're now seeing data coming in and being able to generate reports in FDI, and that capability we never had. So that's for really day-to-day usage of the accounting and different stakeholders that get access to FDI, right? So you can use it as customized as you need it to be, or even just to help with your day-to-day close process, right? So, and even the procurement side, we leverage it, and we use that data within an accounting function, or we'll take it out and use it from an operational standpoint. So I think it's really sort of endless opportunity, and and what's been really advantageous for us is that it's a relatively easy tool to learn and intuitive for users. So the functional area for stakeholders actually know it the best, right? So once you've taught them how to use it, I think they're going in there and discovering there's more potential to the tool than we originally scoped for.
Great. Corinne, what about, Markel is a larger insurance company, so I'm sure there were other technologies and architecture. How did you manage to fit it in?
Yeah, we have a lot of systems and reporting options for sure. What we've been trying to be deliberate about over the last year or two is really making sure that our reporting platforms have a specific use case. So to this point, we have an operational reporting data mart. It has kind of become everything to everyone, which means its usefulness and being able to pull the data out that you need for your specific purposes is a lot harder. So we're trying to make sure that we have data repositories for operational, for our underwriting and claims teams to use. Actuarial, although they sit in finance, they have very specific granular data needs that the rest of finance doesn't need. So FDI is really meant to be our finance data repository for accounting and financial reporting purposes. So now that we have that laid out, that's what we'll be marching towards, and that will ultimately drive what data we want to land in FDI at the end of the day. And there's a need for various reporting platforms within the Oracle ecosystem as well. So within ERP and EBBCS, we rely heavily on SmartView. There's also FRS, OTBI, BIP, but we don't necessarily have those skills within finance to build those reports. So we rely heavily on IT to do that. And so going through that process of updating that, we'd much rather self-serve. And FDI, because of the ease of use, its drag and drop capabilities, that has really put a lot of that power into finance users' hands, which is a very powerful thing.
No, thank you. Brad?
Yeah, I think the big piece comes back to, each individual organization's strategy. So as we think about, making sure there's a clear reporting strategy within the organization, there is no one size fits all. So as you're thinking about operationally, what is your existing infrastructure? Where does FDI sit into that infrastructure? As we talked about financial data, whether that's supply chain or CX, those modules give an acceleration of the business. And as you're looking at this strategy, it's really, thinking about the users and the use cases and the reporting and how you need to get that to the business and how you're going to maintain that within the business. So really, how you look at your strategy, and we really see it as an and, right? So depending on the size of the organization, where you're at on your transformation, it can also be an or. So depending on the scale, you can scale the platform up, or it complements your existing infrastructure, but that isn't aligned with your strategy. The biggest piece is obviously then making sure, as we talked about, data security, data privacy, and how you're looking at that. Within the FDI ecosystem, how do we ensure that there's that data integrity? So rather than moving a lot of sensitive data out into another environment that you've got to then reconcile and put controls around, how do you keep that in and then augment that data? Depending on that user group or persona that you may have based on your strategy. So that's really how we're seeing approaching it, and obviously coming from a kind of a use case and analytics first, and really as an or an and, depending on where the organization's at.
No, that's great. So some of the other clients that I've dealt with where this becomes a contention because different parts of the organization owns different technologies, and they definitely want to emphasize, which part should be used. But all the different points that you guys mentioned were great. And one of the other things that has come up in some of the conversations that I've had is when you have an independent technology, you have to maintain the integrations. And you being on Oracle SaaS product, it's going to continuously improve with new features, which means creating new data sets, which your users want to leverage. And then you have to manage those integrations if you go with something else. And usually there is an enterprise data strategy, enterprise reporting strategy. We've had a couple of clients, who tried to integrate for a couple of years, and then they realize, damn, I got to maintain all of this. And then they switched the strategy to say, like, hey, if I can take my finance user saying, like, hey, here is a place, and give the same kind of an experience, then it's, behind the scenes, maintaining two different technologies is not that hard. But, getting the value to the client or to your users as quickly as possible is how you get them engaged. So that was one of the other things that usually comes up, at least. But great to hear. I don't know if any Oracle analytics from Oracle Corporation is here. You guys must be extremely thrilled to hear all the wonderful things that we're talking about FDI. So I'm gonna change directions a little bit. No journey is smooth. Every journey is gonna have challenges and so forth. And Corinne, especially, you have already gone live, so you've gone through a full cycle, and then I know you're engaged in the second phase of it. And Ducky, you're almost there. So I'm sure there are some scars. So could you share with us, what are the challenges that you faced in implementing FDI, and how, if you overcame it, how did you overcome it? And then Brad, I'd like to hear, you must have gotten a lot of battle scars, so that'll be nice to hear. And again, if Oracle guys, if you guys are here, listen to this. These are notes for your patch.
So I would say we were fairly early adopters of FDI, and I'll be very candid when I say we definitely encountered some challenges because of that. Because one of the issues within our ERP today is we have a fat ledger. So we have 12 GL segments. We also leverage a lot of hierarchies in our reporting. So every chart of account segment has hierarchies that we have to deal with. And then we have multiple currencies that we need to report in. So when we started out with our implementation of FDI, performance was our biggest challenge. I mean, we would try to spin up a report and nothing would happen, 30, 45 minutes. So, that's one of those challenges that is critical. We couldn't really go live with a product when we couldn't yield results from it. But working with PwC and the SEAL team, they were able to come up with a solution involving custom subject areas and some dynamic aggregation that allowed us to pull our reports within seconds, which was infinitely faster than what we were able to do in ERP from a transactional reporting perspective. Users are also able to kind of pick multiple levels in our hierarchies because we have ragged hierarchies. So we weren't really able to leverage the levels that is common within FDI. So that was another challenge we encountered. Since then, Oracle has actually come out with an enhancement based upon our feedback, and now that's out-of-the-box functionality. So there's other issues like that, but what I would say is the partnership that we had with Oracle and the SEAL team, and even the product managers directly, of them actually wanting to solicit our feedback, and then taking that feedback and making it out-of-the-box functionality, that's been extremely valuable to our organization. So it's put others in a better position as they look to implement FDI now. But also, because of the challenges we faced last year, I'm glad that we chose to implement FDI earlier in our journey, because currently we're in the middle of implementing an Oracle Accounting Hub. FDI will serve as the pre-processing staging area for the data to land in Accounting Hub. So I can't imagine trying to balance like a major implementation while facing those same challenges. So getting those out of the way, learning about FDI and how we want to leverage it has really expedited this stage of our implementation for sure.
Thanks, Corinne. So that's great. So performance, especially with hierarchy, was the challenge. And Oracle, you were able to work with Brad and team and was able to get Oracle on the table and make it work. So Brad, how did you charm them?
No, I think the challenge there, once again, it's a platform, right? And so it's a very robust platform that provides a lot of foundational reporting and analytics, but is it the be all and end all for every industry? No, right? So it's a solid platform, allowed for their clients and our clients to expand based on their unique use cases. But I think the one thing that I have seen, and I've worked in a lot of application stacks over the years, is that collaboration with Oracle. There is a desire to resolve things. There's a desire to make the product better on a quarterly basis, as with any of their other SaaS solutions. I think that partnership with their clients and with their SIs like PwC has really helped evolve that product more efficiently and at a faster pace than I've seen other products on the market. So I think that's great. I mean, PwC is wanting to invest in, obviously, as well as Oracle, but they're bringing the team to the table. I think, Corinne, you've got calls on a weekly basis as things are coming up to manage things and really get on the forefront from an industry perspective as well, as I think, which is a little uncommon in the market. But I think that, it's evolving. That's why everybody's here. But in terms of time of deployment, as Corinne mentioned, get it in early. So if you're in the middle of an ERP implementation, you're in the middle of rolling out, a lot of clients will hear we're going to make that a phase 2 item. Recommendation is make it a phase 1 item and get it deployed early. Get your teams looking at the data, understand, so when you do go live, they're in their future state reporting and analytics platform. It's not an afterthought. It just saves a lot of that time and rework that you get into with, I got to rebuild an OTBI report, I got to build a custom BIP report. You have delivered capabilities here. So bring it in early, get the teams engaged, and then work on it over time.
Great. Ducky, I know your journey started a little bit later, so as Corinne mentioned, you got probably benefited, so that a lot of the others got benefited from the enhancements that was made to the, but I'm sure you have some scars as well.
Yeah, thank you, by the way, because we were connecting yesterday, and I was like, oh yeah, but we have that feature for us because companies like you went ahead of us and bared the brunt of the pain, right? So thank you for that. But it's interesting because, and I think this is an example of every company has a different story to tell, because everything you're hearing not to do, we did, and we are doing right now. So for us, it's like we are doing our entire suite change in in 15, 16 months now. We didn't really have true subledgers for some of our areas. So we actually couldn't start FDI earlier because we didn't have data flowing in FDI. So that's like that's a more like when you're a maturing company, I think those are the things you weigh. But we also had very specific custom FDI use at the beginning, and now it's more of the standard usage. For me, when we look at how we implemented and the pain points that the stakeholders have brought to like our attention is that I don't know if you guys all have the same sentiment. This past 6 to 12 months, there's been such a enormous growth in AI and the speed of AI. So our stakeholders are seeing stuff, other toolings online or not, and saying, oh, I should be able to do this. Give me the data and click in. So there was but an ERP implementation, even FDI, it's a faster implementation than other modules, but it still takes time for the other modules for us to kick in, right? So it's almost like we set an expectation, then we were like managing that expectation down and saying, hey, wait till the data comes in, then you can start like using FDI. And then I think I mentioned there was a feature that Oracle didn't have that was very annoying for us, a search functionality, but I realized last night they're enabling AI capability within the module, so actually it remediates that gap, meaning previously you sort of had to know where all the data elements, which data set it sat in, and there wasn't really an easy like search function, say, oh, I want like, let's say, like PO number for like an AP item, like I should know, like I would have to know which data set that element sits in, right? But normally when you have this kind of a power tool, you sort of want to like type in pure numbers and give me options where I can drag and drop it in, right? So doesn't have it, but with the AI feature, it will allow to remediate that gap from a user standpoint. So I think I'm wasting my opportunity to say something to Oracle right now, but I'll keep thinking, yeah.
No, I got stuck at, like, I was thinking how long it'll take for us to mention AI. And I was watching my word, and we did it. No, but I think the things that they are bringing forward now in the latest developments, a lot of the things that you're mentioning, at least looks very interesting and good. Ducky, you, in our conversation, you also mentioned about users, volume of users, security, and so forth. Would you like to share some of that?
Yeah, so we're a very lean organization, but as Corinne mentioned, we're big on self-serve. Like this is a very usable like module and on. And then I think the idea is great until you see the power of FDI, and then it's like, oh no, this is like, I'm not gonna give everybody access to this, production access. I am now worried what people will take this information and do with it, right? So, and it's just because it's so easy and so powerful of the granularity it can pull. So I think we're like, we're gonna be like all users enabled, but then we're now pulling that back and looking at, okay, we have a select super user group that we are gonna somewhat more slowly roll this out and see what the best use case it is. What is interesting is when we think about governance, when I sort of restricted initially some of the users, some team members were like, why are you restricting us? We can use it. So we had like different teams representing in the super user group. After a couple of weeks, they're like, okay, I see why you're gonna restrict this, because even they can't come up with if an operational, like a governance that could be efficient, yet secure when it comes to our data, right? So it's a problem that we are trying to solve right now and thinking through. Got some great tips and ideas from Korean, but I think that was the hardest part. And then the last element, and it is an AI-related item, is that when we say we have this like great sort of module to do reporting, our security team, where our internal Circle security team is very strict, they wanted to review it and like how does AI get enabled and what's the security around it or not. So you do have to be prepared to be able to have those conversations with your security team, because some of it's very unknown, right? Like, yes, it's secure, but like, how do we know it's secure, right? So PwC is helping us sort of navigate many questions from our security team. So right now, for us, besides the super user group, we haven't got the green light to fully enable AI or like release it out to a wider group, but we are also just going live with our last phase. So
Yeah, at least in my engagements, also I see similar patterns. We focus so much on getting it up and running, and especially with an analytical tool like this, you try to think of, hey, have I got all the data sets in there? Is it of good quality? So much of energy is spent into it. We don't think about the users. How do we organize them? How do we secure them? How do we secure the data, et cetera? So at least what I learned from what you're saying is, hey, this is something that you should think early on and try to incorporate that as you're designing and so forth. Brad, I don't know if you have any stories around this, but
Several.
yeah.
Yeah, I think the security model is critical. I mean, it really comes back to your approach and the size of the organization. And ideally, you want to leverage, obviously, as much of the security roles that are defined in your ERP. Obviously, you're going to have custom security roles, segregation of duties, things of that nature set up there. In pulling that, obviously, into your FDI environment to keep that level of controls and access down to a cell and row level. However, you also have individuals who don't necessarily reside in the ERP, who have elevated privileges for reporting and analytics that you need to take care of. So really keeping that in mind and designing in mind to address those issues up front. So having a holistic security model, alignment with your security and cyber team and things of that nature is one of those key things to start planning for early on. But we do like to encourage, leverage your delivered roles. When I say delivered, I'm those that have gone through and been vetted by your cyber and security teams, but leverage those as much as possible. It saves that administrate and becomes a little bit simpler, but you do have a need to plan for those custom roles.
Great. I'll go back to the original question or the high-level question of challenges faced. I think broadly speaking, there are going to be different kinds of challenges that are going to come up in this implementation. And if I heard right, it's about engaging Oracle through your SI partner early on and be aware, make them aware of what you're trying to do and what are the hurdles you're facing, so that I do know that Oracle is very interested in this product. They have a lot of investments in it. So that engagement, I think, is critical. And it reminded me of my personal story. I think it's 2.5 decades ago, I used to work for a technology company. And I would go into projects when they had real challenges. And then when I look at the code that we wrote, and we're like, oh, this is how the clients are using it, actually. We didn't think of that. And it was an interesting experience for me. Maybe that drove me to be a consultant. But we would go back and fix the code because developers build it with their imagination, not to the extent of how it gets actually applied. And I think that interaction makes it very interesting and also beneficial for it. So whoever else is engaged on this engagement, please engage with Oracle through whoever is your partner as early as possible, because I'm pretty sure they're interested in knowing what you're trying to do, and they gain a lot of knowledge from it, and they put it into the product. We spoke about security, we spoke about users. What comes to my mind always is, again, when you go through a huge implementation like this for transformation, there are different technology or different modules being implemented as part of the stack. But after you go live, most of the users are interacting with your reporting solution, the one that provides the data. That's where most of the users are interacting. So just like with anything else, change is challenging. What organizational changes did you make or strategy did you put in place for adoption? Because adoption is not easy. Even as consultants like us, when our firm changed from one tool to another tool, we were not happy, even though we are telling our clients saying, oh, change is good. So it's not easy. And Corinne, I'll start with you because you finished one part of the journey, so the users are using it. What all things do you have to do to make the change happen, get the adoption going?
Yeah, so I actually like to say something that is part joking but part true. I think when you implement a system, that part of it is actually the easy part. It's all the process changes associated with the system change that are hard. And then even more difficult is the change management process. So throughout our implementations, we've taken a very local, targeted approach to change management in general. So it's not enough to give those high-level updates in all-hands meetings or to send out the broad emails with the updates of what we're doing. We actually started what we call change chats, where we met with individual teams within finance and really highlighted the parts of the change that we thought would be most impactful to their teams. And then to further help them connect the dots, this is how I think it might affect you, but let me help, like trying to draw those questions out of them of, oh, you're changing this. I think it might actually have this impact on my process. So in general, that's the approach we take with change management. With the implementation of FDI, I would say this was pivotal for us. So to that point, we've really viewed Oracle and its applications as, okay, that's where we book our journal entries, this is where we do our transactions, we can do some reporting, it's painful. But with FDI, we saw it really as our first true strategic Oracle application. So we did make some organizational updates. We had 2 product owners, one over the P2P space, one over record to report. They rolled up two different teams within our finance department. We consolidated those under me as the product manager. So that's actually when my role is new as of the end of last year. We also moved some of our BSAs that were more functional in nature from the IT department into the finance team. So now we have an entire team within finance that supports Oracle. So a couple reasons for that. With FDI, there's a lot of training involved in that. And we're going back, to the point about self-service. So we needed people that were within the finance team that understand the reporting needs of those finance end users. So being able to almost, it's painful when I say this, but on person by person, trying to convert them over and train them on FDI. And some people may not have the skill sets necessarily to do that. We have people that can help build those reports and then say, here's your report. You really just have to update it and be able to use it. Also, end users going through like the service desk process of trying to ask questions and get things resolved. At the end of the day, a lot of those are really just an education or user error. So having people within finance that they can go to directly to troubleshoot those issues has really helped with some of that resolution time as well. And at the end of the day, finance is the team that's using these applications. They know the use cases. They know what enhancements that we want to add, those types of things. So it's really now finance is driving our usage of our Oracle applications in partnership with IT to help support and execute on that. And that was definitely a change in mindset within our organization, but we've seen a lot of change since that's happened. So it's been really exciting.
No, that's great. And are you able to say that your users are happy and there is a feedback loop in terms of, hey, this is great, but we want extra this or extra that?
Yeah, because I think it's, in the past, we were also probably more reactive. So something broke in Oracle, okay, now you need to fix it. There may be small enhancement requests that come out of that, but now we're trying to really drive the narrative and be proactive in that space. So we're actually trying to solicit feedback from users that really drive those enhancements too.
That's fantastic. Ducky, I know you're not in the same spot, but you did mention attestation report was a important piece, and that's changed the lives of people. So how was your adoption? And maybe you're still planning it out. Give us your story about any changes you had to make to the organization or change management to get people adopt the implementation.
Hello, yes.
Yeah.
So for us, we are still, and our stakeholders are in a lot of pain because we're just getting our last modules up to, going live. Most of our subjects went live in August. So the pain is very fresh. Now, when it comes to FDI adoption, for us, it's both FDI and actually Oracle itself, because we're all new to Oracle, is when the stakeholders tell us, well, I need this report, help me with it because I had it before. Now, if we have a brand new ERP system, we shouldn't be using the same reporting that we had before, but what's really scary is habits. Like the comfort zone of the users, like, oh, but I always had this report to do my close. I always had this report to like close out like AP or anything like that. So those are like what like the team considers as red flags. So for us, those are the folks that we actually do like a more targeted onboarding, or like sort of help us, like, can you walk us through what you use this report for? And a lot of times what we're realizing is there's a big element of not knowing how to properly use the modules itself, the actual like ERP modules or EPM modules. And then we can sort of narrow down to, oh, there is a true reporting need. And then those are, majority of the time right now, they're very easily self-serving, like in FDI. So we would show them, and we would actually train the super user in that team to how to like generate that report, and they become sort of the ambassador for that functional area that needs reports, because as you said, they know the best, what they need and what the requirements are. But the hardest part with not just FDI, but for us, Oracle overall, is people are very comfortable with what they're used to. So even though a year ago they complained like no other about, oh, our ERP like doesn't do anything, we don't have any detail, we don't have any reports. Fast forward 15 months and they still want the old report, right? So that's a big shift that needs to happen. I think we're seeing it in some of the earlier teams that adopted FDI, and they're now helping us educate their colleagues, saying, actually just stick it out for another month, like try to use your module more. But that's where this sort of our current state is with adoption.
That's great. Brad?
I think the challenge is changing the mindset, getting away from I need this report to starting to ask the question, what is the answer I'm looking for? What's the question I have? And if we start coming about it that way, you'll see organizations start to embrace the technology better, as well as new AI capabilities are coming out. It's just really, how is that data supporting the answers I need? And getting away from I need that report. Because it's very common to come into a large implementation, I love that dashboard, but it's not my report. Take a step back, challenge your users, have the conversation of what are the questions that you need to ask, what are the answers we need to drive our business differently. And if you change that mindset, it gets away from I need all these reports to this is the information I need to make decisions. And that is going to be the hardest transition a lot of organizations have. But if you come in with that approach at the beginning, you'll find yourself creating less reports and providing more analytics and insights that mean the most to the business to drive value.
Yeah, Brad, one question there. When do you start this? Start engaging the users?
Early. I think that comes back to the strategy, and you're having those conversations. Everyone wants to go through a huge report rationalization. I want to know where I'm going to get, where's my cheese moving so I can go there tomorrow. Really having those questions up front. Understanding what are the metrics and analytics that matter most on the far right side to really look back at your business process. What do I need to change? What additional data do I need in my system to get to that outcome? So come with an inquisitive questions up front early on in your planning stages. Start to understand that strategy. That'll also play into how you look at your business process changes, look at how you operate as an organization to really get the most value out of your investment and make sure it's sustainable. Otherwise, it's just we're going to create more reports.
Yeah, I can just layer onto that because that's actually really important. So when we were rolling out FDI, we did have some resistance because change is hard. They had reporting that worked for them, right? So what value am I going to get out of this as a user? So we weren't asking people to lift and shift their reports into FDI because what's the point in that? We really needed to make sure that people understood you need to approach this differently. If you're creating a report, putting it in PDF, emailing it to somebody, getting a question back that you have to go research, then email the PDF back, what if you gave them an interactive dashboard where they could slice and dice the data and drill through to underlying detail? That's how you gain efficiencies, and that's how you advance in the reporting landscape. And so that's something that we're still continuing to push throughout finance because it really is a change in mindset.
Thanks, Corinne. So if I were to just summarize from the beginning, you both your organization started a journey with an objective in mind, picked FDI, and managed to be complemental to your existing technology architecture, implemented it. There were some challenges, but worked with your SI and Oracle to get over it, and then put the change in place one way or the other, got users to adopt it, and you're seeing the benefits of where you started? It sounds like that. I know we are about time, and I was told if we don't talk about AI and AI world, we won't be let outside this building. So I'm sure every company has engaged in AI. Maybe in a minute, both of you, if you can tell, what is your firm's strategy around AI, and particularly as part of this journey, if you can just share, I think it'll be great.
Yeah, so we're definitely all in on trying to advance AI. Still very early on in our journey. Within FDI specifically, we are piloting digital assist specifically within the procurement space within FDI. And we can already tell it's going to be a pretty powerful tool. So excited that that's really going to be like our starting jumping off point for this journey for us.
Fantastic. Ducky?
Yeah, so for us, our fearless leader, CEO, and founder, he's very much given everybody a mandate and sort of requirements to bring AI efficiency to every function. And when it comes to AI right now, the one hurdle for us within Oracle is enabling the AI features is the security review, because I think it's lack of understanding of the Oracle environment from sort of where our skill sets lie, right? Now, what we are doing, though, is we do take reports out of FDI and then enable a lot of automation outside within our secure ecosystem. So, for instance, there's the AP payment, invoice payment, status report we can pull. We basically load it in a drive, and then agents basically send out Slack messages to each of the users on the status of the invoice payment. That is a 2-minute clicking activity for an individual, and after that, it probably saves us 3 or 4 hours of the AP analyst following up with each individual stakeholder. So that's a pretty easy way to enable AI.
Thank you so much, both of you. And I'm sure next year when we sit here, we'll be talking only about AI and how we don't have to do anything. Everything gets done by an agent of some sort. But
You might not be here.
that's probably true. Again, I want to thank you all for coming. Hopefully this was engaging. We'll be around if you have any questions, especially if you want to talk to these three. I don't know much, but these three know quite a bit. So we are going to be around. Feel free to ask us questions specific to what you're going through. But if not, thank you very, very much for coming and keeping us. Thank you.